Good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, January 7th. It is just past 10 a.m. We're going live here in Phoenix. Today we're going to, it's a new year. We're going to catch up on what's going on and answer a few questions and have a little fun. So stay tuned. What's up, everybody? It's Greg Corbett with the AZ Lifestyle Group right here in Phoenix, Arizona. If this is your first time to this channel and you're looking to find out everything you need to know about what it's like living in and or moving to the Phoenix metro area, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you can be notified whenever we post a new video. We are helping people from all over when it comes to finding the best places and neighborhoods to live here, and we absolutely love it. So if you're even thinking about making a move and you need any assistance whatsoever, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, however you want to get a hold of us. We got your back when it comes to moving to the Phoenix metro. All right, I don't know. I think people can hear Rudy in the background. Let's bring Rudy in. I think he's typing away. He's already working on stuff. What's Rudy? Good morning. How are you, man?
No rest for the weary, man. Always working.
Always
like be working.
Always be working. What happened to ABC?
Right. Yeah, that's after you work and you close. It just kind of goes in steps.
All good. Happy New Year, man. How are you?
Happy New Year. Yeah, like nothing really has changed from December 31st, 2020. It kind of feels like the same
I
stuff.
thought that once the clock hit midnight, 2020 ended, 2021 began, and everything would be bright and rosy. Everything would be perfect. So I think that's happening, right?
It might be happening for some people. It's certainly when you turn on the news, it doesn't seem to be happening on the news. But yeah,
don't turn on the news. That's not good for anybody.
Well.
That's not good for anybody.
It's really
it's one of my resolutions is to not watch any news at all. I want to stay. I mean, you got to keep people posted on current events, I guess. So maybe we can't do that 100%. But yeah, all good. Any other resolutions that you have for this year?
I guess just the usual suspects, eating healthier, getting better sleep, just being a better person, the stuff that you kind of stop doing.
I thought you already did that perfectly. What do you have to improve on, Rudy?
You're right. The bar is set pretty high. I probably should think of something more realistic because I'm already there.
It's funny because I never asked you this. I forgot. I think I saw it on your Facebook page one time where you put out a video of you saying hey, I do 150 burpees each morning. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
Yeah.
You do that every day?
Every single morning, I do 150 burpees. Every single morning.
Can you show us 5 right now?
No, I'm getting old, man. My body can only go to 150. Then after that, it starts breaking.
You already maxed out, dude. That's impressive, man. I don't like to do 150 burpees in a year, but
I didn't do it all at one time. At first, I started at 50, and then I started getting a little better after that, and now I'm at 150. And the reason I do it, I've had a couple people ask me why in the world I do that, and it's because they suck. And I mentally, after I'm done with them, I'm mentally in a place where I feel like I've accomplished something so hard already that the rest of the day is just a walk in the park. So that's the reason I do them.
I love it. That's pretty awesome. It's motivating. I'm not going to commit to doing it myself. But I probably should try to get at least something out there, that I can do on a daily basis. I try to work out here and there. I try to eat cleaner a little bit. I definitely have the same kind of resolutions that you do because we all want to be healthier and all that stuff too. But it's impressive. It's impressive. So for anybody that's out there, you should follow Rudy on Facebook and watch him do burpees. But
all right. Well, Another beauty of it is that they suck so bad that it's actually a really good workout that doesn't require you to be in the gym for an hour because it only takes me, it takes me about 15 minutes to do them.
Well, I was going to ask you how long it takes.
15 minutes. Yep. It used, like I said, I used to start with 50 and then 100 and then 150, and now it just takes me about 15 minutes and I'm done for the day. I feel accomplished and I can just get on with life.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
Thanks, man.
Well, what do we want to talk about today? I mean, obviously, brand new year. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Kind of like you said, like we're not seeing the typical, situation where it's like, hey, we had holidays and things slowed down, and then we have the beginning of January. Like things have kind of stayed pretty steady, just because of how crazy last year was and how we had kind of basically a stoppage between March and April and kind of picking back up in May. So. I know from my end, I'm seeing, still plenty of activity out there. What are you seeing on your end so far?
Yeah, the same. I mean, we joked around about it like a minute or two ago, but really there hasn't been any difference here locally in the market in general from 2020. Obviously, over the last week, there's been on the news and geopolitically, there's been a lot of change, and a lot of turmoil, and a lot of volatility, to say the least. But everyone is still buying. We're still talking to a lot of folks that want to move here from other parts of the country, and they have their reasons for wanting to move. Yep. And we're not slowing down by any means, and prices are still going up. I'm actually in the middle of working with someone who was going to wait initially 12 months to move here. They're thinking about buying now because. Yeah. The prices, the homes that they were interested in 12 months ago are now so much more expensive today that they don't want that to happen again another 12 months from now. Yeah,
and everything we're seeing, like, and we'll have to do a whole video on this in general just to kind of break down like everything we're seeing, because there's still, YouTube is famous for this, is like all the people that have their thumbnails, and maybe we'll make one just for fun, but that's like, oh, a catastrophe's coming and whatever, and all the housing market and
right.
And all of the concrete information. If you really dig into the details, you really take a hard look at what's happening and what kind of migration we have coming in, what people are doing, the amount of inventory, the amount of demand. Like I cannot see anything being or changing this year when it comes to like buyer demand. We might start to see a little bit of, this is where, politically what happens, I have no idea. But if there's not more stimulus, and you got people that have been affected by COVID last year, that people who, unfortunately have been affected business-wise or can no longer afford payments, like the people that own homes, they have equity to sell. So there's not going to be a big foreclosure wave. And so, from what I can tell, that could be the only maybe a helpful spike in inventory, which I don't know if it would drop prices. It's not going to be that big of a increase, but it could at least free up so we're not seeing these multiple offers everywhere.
Yeah, only time will tell. A couple things that, on the mortgage side that I'm keeping a close eye on is now that the Senate has been the Democrats have won the Senate seats and are now going to gain pretty much full control of the government, the Congress, and obviously the presidency.
Right.
And that allows for more government spending, because obviously the Democrats want to provide more fiscal stimulus to the economy. In order to do that, the government's going to have to finance it in terms of Treasury issuance. So the more Treasuries supply that there is there, the less the prices for those Treasuries are, because there's more supply, kind of like with houses, right? So when Treasury prices are down, that means rates go up. So that's something that I'm going to keep a very close eye on. Not to say that tomorrow rates are going to go up. However, the last 48 hours, rates have gone up a little bit, about an eighth of a point.
Okay.
But something to keep in mind, if you're still on the fence, and not only are house prices one thing to consider 12 months from now, they could potentially be higher, which willing to bet that they will be, but also rates in the short and medium term could potentially go up as well, because once President Biden is sworn in President-elect Biden is sworn in as our president on January the 20th, Democrats are going to obviously be providing more stimulus. That's their plan. That's their agenda. Yeah. And it could potentially cause rates to go up in the short term. So a lot of moving pieces going into Inauguration Day on the 20th, but obviously beyond, to consider. And then another piece, too, that I'm keeping an eye on is that not a lot of people have been talking about anymore quite as much. At least I don't see that on the news and mainstream media, is the forbearances and deferments that are still outstanding. a lot of folks that are still carrying over more and more forbearances that can't currently pay their houses. To your point, they have a lot of equity, so it's not necessarily going to be a huge problem if they sell for them. But that's something to keep in mind. If more and more people are becoming delinquent on their loans once their forbearance periods are over, then what is that going to mean in the market? And that's still to be determined.
Well, and I can see, obviously with the Democratic Senate, I can see this push for that they push banks to not allow people to foreclose. They have to take the lump payment of what they owe, put it on the back end of their loan. Have to. I can just see something like that happening if that were the case. And hopefully that's helpful for more people. I know there's good and bad to that. That doesn't help everybody, and there could be some challenges with it. No matter who's running the show, there's always some challenges. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. And I'm hoping for the best of people who are struggling right now, because there's definitely a significant number of people who are struggling. Hopefully, what is done is helpful to keep people in their homes if they can. We don't need any more. And look, I know California's taking a beating for what's going on over there right now between COVID stuff and political mess, and a lot of homeless out there right now, which is devastating. We don't need that here in Arizona. So hopefully we can make the right decisions that help people stay where they need to be, but also don't ruin anybody else's livelihoods as well.
Yeah, it's going to be 21 is going to be an interesting year. It could go in so many directions. Well, really, it can either get better, it can get worse, or it can kind of stay the same, just a continuation of 2020. I mean, I know it's kind of a very generic and broad
what we know is we have no idea what's coming. It's probably the biggest. We shouldn't even guess, but all good.
Yeah. I think the first once Joe Biden is sworn in, that's a big milestone that the markets like milestones. The markets like the optics of what's going on in the world, in the country, and the economy. So that's one big milestone, in my personal opinion, that is going to kind of shoot things in one way or the other, or maybe just kind of muddle through afterwards. So we'll see kind of how it goes after January the 20th. But leading up to January 20th, if there's more unrest and more chaos with what we saw yesterday, then that could maybe accelerate a little bit of the volatility that could potentially happen. But I don't know.
What do you? I mean, I'm not schooled in this at all. I talked to my financial advisor a little bit, but the stock market is such an interesting thing to me, because even with everything going on, the stock market continues to hit record highs. It goes up and down here and there, but I mean, we've been at primarily record highs. What do you think the stock market does to mortgage interest rates? Or does it have any correlation from your end at all?
Yeah, that's an interesting, great question. So one thing that people sometimes don't realize about the world of trading now in this day and age is that a lot of it's done by machines. So there are still investors, personal investors, that are out there trading every single day. But a lot of these institutional investors, they operate off machines that operate off very complex algorithms and analysis that make trades on a daily basis. So the reason the stock market is doing what it's doing, despite the fact that the world seems to be just crumbling, is the fact that machines don't care. Machines are not watching the news. Machines don't care who says what, or who tweets what, or who comments on what. So the machines are the ones that are driving a lot of this momentum. Yeah. And then also the consensus seems to be that what happened yesterday at Capitol Hill is kind of a one-off. That seems to be like the consensus as of today. Maybe a week from now, that'll be totally not the case. But, companies are still doing well. Companies are still, certain companies are still thriving, obviously. Right. There's some companies that are not, but for the most part, and the S&P is really 5 huge companies that are driving the S&P 500. That's another thing people don't realize. It's not just 500 companies equally weighted. It's like this handful of huge companies that are driving it, that are doing really well. Yeah. And so just keep that in mind, that the stock market is not watching the news for the most part. But a lot of people also believe that now that Biden is declared the president, now that the Georgia runoff election has been finalized, there should hopefully, fingers crossed, be some sort of predictability going into the year. We know who our president's going to be. We know who's going to control the Senate and the House, and we kind of have an expectation of some form of stability.
Right.
The wild cards in all this are stimulus and the vaccine, and how does COVID kind of play in all this? That's what's going to potentially derail or change what the trajectory of the year will be.
Yeah, and it's been interesting. I mean, bringing up COVID, and it's like I think a lot of us were hoping that get through 2020, get into 2021, hopefully see the light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to COVID. I don't know if we're seeing that yet. I think there's a lot of optimism that potentially this vaccine could do something for people. I know there's still a lot of people that are just over some of the constant media coverage of it and the constant politicization. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. It's interesting, to see how is this going to play out? How's it going to affect us? It's still like such an unknown. I don't even know what to think. I don't know how it's going to affect us.
Yeah, so the vaccine, obviously, the more vaccines that are being distributed, which that's the plan. I don't remember how many millions of people are supposed to be vaccinated by the end of 2021. That's good for our economy, and that's going to that's going to probably cause the stock market to continue in the path that it's in, more than likely, and then that's going to cause rates to potentially go up, because a good economy is inflation. Good economy, that causes rates to go up. So if we start getting more and more positive news, which we all want positive news, if we start getting more and more of that, unfortunately, adversely, the interest rates on mortgages could potentially also take note of that and go up a little bit. We'll see. Yeah,
I mean, and I think, I would imagine they'll only raise interest rates if they think that it's strong enough to continue the housing market to keep going in a positive direction. They're never going to raise it to the point where they start seeing negative returns. It doesn't, hurt to kind of even things out a little bit, maybe, because we've seen such high price increases throughout the U.S. This is not just an Arizona thing. There are a ton of areas that are booming right now with migration all over. So, and I think a lot of people are in the same boat that we are when it comes to housing market just being absolutely nuts. And so, hopefully that could maybe, put a plateau on some of the price increases. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Now, if you're looking to sell, obviously you probably want to take advantage of this stuff right now. But for buyers, hopefully that helps more buyers get in. Again, less competition. If you have a higher interest rate, maybe you can spend a little bit less on the home. But again, we're all speculating, and it's hard to say. So if you're on the fence, holler at us, and we can kind of take you through what areas you're looking at and kind of what you're up against. But we'll kind of do our best to say, hey, yes, this makes sense. For some people, it might not make sense. For some people, it's like, hey, wait, get over here. We talk to plenty of people who are like, hey, I'll come over and I'll rent for a year and then I'll figure it out. I won't argue with that if it's right move for somebody.
Yeah, you don't ever want to base your decision off stuff that you have no control over. And I know that that's impossible to do in life in general. But if you're only buying a house because rates are historic lows and now's the time to buy, but you're really not in a situation where you can commit and be financially healthy to make that commitment, then don't buy a house.
Yeah.
And, it's our job to help people with that. And, it's funny because I think about in the past, houses that I put offers on in the past that I didn't get, and I thought that they were great deals, things ended up working out even better. And I thought that at the time, I thought that I really lost out on something that I would never recover from, or that I would be so bummed out about. And it turns out that, it just wasn't meant to be. It wasn't the right time. And I just think as long as you continue that mindset, and not feel like you're pressuring yourself to buy a house because everyone is quote unquote buying or refinancing, then I think you're probably in a better situation.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think a lot of people are, especially coming from out of state, it's like, okay, well, they're having a tough time traveling right now, and they need to make a decision, but it's hard. So they're like kind of feel forced into trying to purchase or even rent from another state and have us go out and scout for them, which, I mean, I'll try to do for everybody as best we can, but it's tricky when you're not actually in the neighborhoods looking around. I would at least encourage people before they do it to get an idea. I mean, we're putting these videos out, and we try to give people an idea on what these neighborhoods look like. That's the goal, is to kind of do some of that scouting for you, so you at least get a general idea on what you're getting into. But it's always helpful to get some eyes on it yourself. If you can't do it, it is what it is. But I would encourage people, if you can, to try to at least see what you're getting into, because we do talk to people who have been out. Maybe they came a couple of years ago, and now we talked to, and they're like, yeah, when we first got here, we thought we were going in this direction, and now that turns out that it's totally different than we would have liked to go.
Yeah, and there's so much to consider from, even from a year ago that you probably wouldn't consider now. Not only are schools important maybe for you, but the proximity to jobs, or now if you work from home, that really doesn't matter anymore. But how far do you want to be from civilization, I guess, or what kind of landscape are you looking for? There's so much crime, so much to consider. Luckily, you have Greg and I to help you with that stuff, to go over. We'll cover it all for you, not only the home buying piece, but the finance piece. And we love what we do, so please take advantage of that.
And we have a question that came in from BW. BW has been commenting on a lot of our videos. We appreciate you watching, man. And I don't know if those are your initials or you go by BW, but pleasure to have you jump in on one of these live calls. So his question is, do you believe new construction in Goodyear is overpriced? I've seen new homes go for almost $600K. It's a good question. I've been looking. Actually, I'm kind of doing some scouting on video right now, because I think the 500 to 600K mark is what a lot of people are coming in at. And with the new conventional or max conventional loan guidelines, it makes sense for somebody to come in and buy around 600, put 10% down, and still stay in conventional without going into jumbo. And so I'm seeing that as a popular price point. I'd say Goodyear, and probably where those 600K houses are probably in Estrella Mountain Ranch, and that community has been so popular, even though it's kind of away from so much. It's been so popular, and there's so many things that people like about it, and it's a beautiful neighborhood, and it's got a lot of amenities. So if you've got, I haven't seen what you're talking about, but if you have a property that is, 3,000 to 4,000 square foot, a good sized lot with the I guess if it's new construction, won't be by the pool. But if you have a nice neighborhood, I could easily see that. And I'm seeing that not only in Goodyear, but Glendale, Peoria. It's definitely happening. Gilbert and Chandler probably above that. But like all the outskirt areas, so Goodyear, Surprise, Peoria, Queen Creek, like those areas, like I'm seeing similar pricing pop up all the time. Like that East Mark over in Mesa is probably similar to that, maybe a little bit more, but yeah, BW, that I'm seeing that, and it's because, and you're going through this, I believe, right now too, with new construction. There is very little opportunity with new construction when people are getting in on lists now, and so builders are taking advantage of. And I'm realistically, like, in the resale market, there's not much competition, or there's not a whole lot to choose from there, so people are going new construction, so that's going to push those prices. I don't know if that makes sense or that all is helpful, but that's what I'm seeing overall. Rudy, have you seen anything on your end from that?
Yeah, to your point about resales being so competitive and the lack of inventory causing people to move to new builds is spot on. I've been seeing that too, just people getting constantly beaten out on offers, and then they just kind of throw their hands up in the air and go find a new build.
It's not that easy to do that either, though. Like,
right.
But go ahead. I'm sorry I stopped you, but go for it.
No, and I just kind of always think back, my wife and I, that's our very first house. That's what we did. We kept getting beat out in homes in Houston, Texas, and we bought out in the suburbs. And unfortunately, like 3 months later, we were kind of thinking, man, we made a mistake. We shouldn't have moved this far out.
Yeah.
That's not the case for everybody. That was just the case for us.
Yeah.
But you gotta keep that in mind. A lot of this new construction is a little further out, so there's still a lot of development for a long period of time that's still in the works. So as long as you're willing to put up with that, or not put up with that, but live through that and go through that long process of, this is going to be a long commitment for me. I'm not just going to sell this house in a year or two. I think then new builds are a great way to look at it.
Or waiting for growth. I mean, so when I first got into real estate back in 2004, I moved out to Queen Creek, worked with the home builder that I was working for at the time. I was in a house and there was like nobody around me. I was out in a house on a golf course. There was no other houses, so I had to wait for the houses to build up around me, and then I had to wait for. Queen Creek really I lived there for 5 years. By 2009, they had done a ton of construction and kind of had started bringing it up. Now it's a completely different city than when I used to live, or town, or when I lived there. And but I mean, all the other communities I worked being in new homes, even back during the mid 2000s, when it came to like Maricopa, Casa Grande, Buckeye. I was in Florence for a small period of time, and I think there's a little bit still going on, but when I talk to people like, hey, what's going on over here now, like obviously crash and burn and then like building it back up, like a lot of those people who live out in those outskirts, they have not seen any kind of commercial growth, and so they're still having to drive all over the place.
That's just the reality of it. If you're going to move out, you just kind of have to be ready for that. And it's funny because my in-laws, they live probably about an hour and a half north of Dallas, and they love it. They don't want to be around anybody, and that's their thing. Whenever we go to visit them, it's kind of like we're off the grid, man. But they love it, and so my wife and I we kind of want to be in town and kind of be around stuff. So it is what it is.
I get it. And BW saying, it does. Thanks for answering the struggle. Feeling like I'm overpaying. Your response makes sense. Yeah, in number one, you're welcome. Always here to help out. Number two, I think everybody feels like that. Like everybody is like, there's definitely a lot of people that are like, does this make sense? Are we going to start to see? Because I think especially with everybody remembering what happened back in 2005 and 2006, and having the same feeling where you've got multiple offers and a lot of competition and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden everything just crumbles, and you can't help but be like, should I be doing this? Are we going down the same path? And that's, Rudy and I talk about this all the time, is like, what are the similarities versus what are the differences? And there are a ton of differences that make us feel like this is not a house of cards that's going to crumble overnight, because we don't have this situation where we have people buying multiple houses. You got second home buyers and investors flooding the market. That's not happening. We have actual people who want to live here buying. They're putting 10 to 20% down. It's not zero down, and people or paying cash. And so you're not going to have that influx of like people foreclosing, which is going to crash the market. It's just not going to happen. So, but it's good to talk about because everybody wants to know. So we appreciate you jumping in there. And then Chip's jumping in. Howdy, fellas. Chip, good morning, brother. How are you?
What's up, Chip?
Again, I think a lot of people are thinking about this, especially going into this year. BW, I know you're under contract, waiting for your house to be built, and that is the case for a lot of people too. But a lot of people are going to be in the same ballpark where they're like, hey, what should I be spending? And Rudy, we had talked to, we'll wrap this up here shortly, but we had talked to another one of our watchers who's looking at multiple different cities right now for good reason. It's like, hey, do you want to go to Phoenix versus do you want to move to Colorado? Do you want to move to Texas? Do you want to move to the East Coast over on the Carolinas? Like there's, for people who are looking to move, there's a lot of options right now. Like, how when you hear people are trying to make a decision, what do you try to tell them as far as what what to look for and how to what to expect from Arizona?
Yeah, I think no matter where you go, it's not going to be perfect and all sunshine and rainbow. Well,
Yep.
sunshine here, definitely sunshine, but
Yep.
it's not going to be.
There's no rainbows because it doesn't rain.
There's no rainbows. There's a ton of sunshine. So just be ready for that. So I just think Arizona's different. Obviously, everywhere is different, but here, you just got to be ready for those summers, and you got to be ready for a different landscape, the desert feel. You got to be ready for, if you got kids, take the schools into consideration. The air quality, apparently on New Year's, air quality was a little up and down as well.
Is that all the fireworks? People lighting fireworks off or something?
All these fireworks, everyone celebrating the end of the year.
Yeah.
Was apparently causing the air quality.
Or was it just tear gas? Was people getting ready for tear gas?
Maybe there's someone storming here.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. The weather's beautiful when it's not during the summertime. There's tons of stuff to do if you love golf, if you love baseball. Spring training's here. The food here is amazing. It just depends on your specific situation, and like I said, it's not for everybody. But what helps is coming here to visit and actually stay here for a couple of days. And I know right now that's almost impossible with everything that's going on. But and rely on the expertise of us to help kind of guide you through that, because we're not going to sugarcoat it, Greg. There's one thing you and I are totally on the same page on, is that we're not going to convince someone on something just because we want to. We're going to be very transparent with you, the good and the bad of living here. And so please, take that into consideration when you're exploring moving here, that we're going to tell you exactly what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, I do the same thing when I'm looking at houses with people. I try to point out the bad and be like, hey, do you got to know that? Like, so I'm more like try to like tell them the negative and then let them decide if the positives outweigh, because I think there are a lot of them, but I definitely want people to make sure that they know what they're getting into. So
of course.
We're going on plus 30 here right now. Again, some of the things that always help us and help you guys is when you get on here, ask us questions and show us or tell us where you want us to go take a look or talk about, that type of thing. Like, we appreciate that feedback. It's hopefully helpful to you. It is always helpful to us to know what people are watching and thinking. So please get us some or send us a comment or reach out to us however you want to, and let us know how we can help. We're here to do that. You, Rudy, any kind of parting thoughts before we wrap it up? I'll put our contact info on here again.
Yeah, no, I just think that, if you're on the fence, at least start exploring earlier in the year. Luckily, this past year was so up in the air, but around the springtime, I think, Greg, right? More houses will probably come on the market. That's
the usual trend.
Yeah, that's the usual trend. So if you're thinking about moving here, at least get your finances in order, start pinpointing some areas, because come February, March, April, there could be more houses that come up that is going to cause, obviously, the demand to be there. The demand's already there.
Yep.
You don't want to be on the sidelines and then see a house that you love and then it's gone, which, you want to be ready to go, pull the trigger right away.
Well, and you also want to set your expectations properly. And I know a lot of people, before they're reaching out to us, they're looking at Zillow. And Zillow is not a good source for looking at houses because they don't show you. I was looking at this the other day just because it's incredible. Like, when I was looking at the price points on houses in the 500 to 600 range all over the valley, and I looked at the active, there's like 60 properties. If I looked at the ones under contract accepting backups, which show as active on Zillow, there's like 120. So that means you have what is only 60 properties actually active without being under contract is showing as 180 properties on Zillow that are active. So you're going to have to go through all that. It's a mess. So anyway, reach out to us. We can help guide you on that a little bit easier. Rudy, we'll wrap it up right now. Appreciate everybody jumping in. BW, thank you for watching as always. Chip, always good to have you watching and chiming in as well for For those of you who didn't ask any questions, reach out to us anytime below if you need anything. And hopefully next week we can talk about some positive events coming up and what the best reasons to live in Arizona, which is usually January, February, and March. So until then, you guys have a great Thursday. Enjoy your weekend. Rudy, appreciate you as always, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Greg.